I do believe that was New Kids on the Block with CoverGirl, and I do believe we have a real-life CoverGirl right here in the studio. We are joined with Charmaine Marsh. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yes, this is the clinical director, also senior therapist of Goodity Co, and I really love what you guys do. You also have this really great session. It's like coffee as well as conversations as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we embark on the topic for today?
Right. So Coffee Talks was, it started to kind of demystify therapy and kind of make it accessible and non-intimidating for everybody. So have a coffee and then you sit down for like 15 minutes and have a chat, a therapeutic conversation with a licensed therapist. So you can ask any questions you want, bring up stuff, dredge up the past if you want, but it's going to be in a chill environment over a cup of coffee.
It's like you're having a chat with a friend.
Exactly.
And this takes place at least once a month or once in...
Well, we did it a couple of times so far. We just have to find the right space, the right juju for it. Gotta get the right zen area and everything.
That's hilarious. But definitely something that we can all look forward to. And I guess details will be available at your website, Goodity Co. Now, today's topic is really interesting. Is it even possible to have healthy arguing? That's what it's all about for today. So, Charmaine, take us through. What does healthy arguing entail?
That's so ironic, right? Because when we think of arguments, we always think of just tearing our hair out and things like that. But basically, I think when there's healthy arguing, you and your person you're arguing with, you actually feel safe to disagree. That's the first thing. Do you even feel safe to disagree with someone that you're arguing with? Because if you don't, then that's some red flags in the relationship already. But definitely at any point in any relationship, two people will definitely find something to argue about. And, for sure, I guess healthy arguing entails arguing towards a resolution and not arguing to win an argument.
That's quite a distinction there, and a very important one as well. And is this something that can be applied to all relationships, personal ones, work relationship, mother and child? Yeah, I speak for myself and my three boys. Oh, the arguments are starting, okay?
I get, and they have this vocabulary that they've developed as well.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I would say yes to an extent. It can be, in an ideal world, it can be extended to all relationships. It's a conscious effort. It is a very conscious effort when we are pissed off, when we are hurt, I'm arguing because I disagree with someone, but I have to work towards a resolution. So it could be your partner, it could be a work colleague, it could be with your kids, and at that point there, you just, it's not about not loving the person. You have this love, but in that moment, you don't feel like you're in love, or you feel like you don't feel connected to that person. That's fine. But are you arguing towards a resolution? And if you don't hold it consciously, you could get thrown off a tangent and just, I want to get my point across. I want to make sure that I'm right, that I win this argument, that I show my power over you as a manager or a parent.
Right. So I guess even though you have that very clear aim for healthy arguing, unfortunately, it's easier said than done. I think, sometimes you're just too wrapped up with putting your point across instead of, like you said, a healthy arguing involves coming to a resolution. So we're going to find out more about healthy arguing, especially tips on how to do so and embark on it correctly. Hey everyone, our Brightside buddies, chime on in. You can drop us a WhatsApp at 88550-913 or join us by commenting on our Facebook page at facebook.com/1FM913. We're going on live, okay? In just a bit, we're switching over to Facebook, and it might just win you a bundle from Carfoon that includes a cocoa pouch and a journal. This is worth $105 in total. Join us on Facebook. Hey there. Okay, Charmaine, our guest for today, is very interested in our price, and really, I tell you, if you like leather goods and quality leather goods, you need to check out Carfoon because I'm doing a plug for them right now. So this bundle from them includes a cocoa pouch and a journal, and all of them is about traditional craftsmanship, and it's a local company as well. Yeah, so they do a lot of personalization with their leather goods, so it makes for a very good gift as well. So Brightside buddies, chime on in, share your questions. I'm sure sure you're as intrigued as I am about healthy arguing, okay? So now I want to ask, this is even though I know very clearly the distinction between just arguing versus healthy arguing, which is to come to a resolution, what are some tips that you can give us? 5 perhaps on how we can achieve healthy arguing?
Yeah. Well, the first tip I would say definitely is to fight fair. I know it sounds very strange, but fight fair. Avoid resorting to all the low blows and dredging up all the historic events. Avoid starting to use anything that was shared to you in confidence or any vulnerable moments. Just stay away from all those things that you know that if you say it, you're gonna hurt the other person. Sometimes in an argument, we feel so much hurt that we want to inflict the same amount of hurt on someone else so that it's fair, right? But then when you start to bring up all these things, it's just you're not fighting fair. When you start to use vulgarities or even violence, then that's when you know that it's can we just be respectful as we argue or as we disagree rather.
Tough though.
Very
I mean, especially the part where sometimes when you're trying to focus on that argument at hand, right, and you end up trying to clarify things, and then unfortunately it is kind of like bringing up the past.
So why do you bring up that thing that we talked about last month?
So what do you do specifically with what you've mentioned, how to avoid doing those things?
If we can, that brings me to another point actually. If we can stay focused on the topic at hand and not get distracted by I mean, of course sometimes it's a recurring incident that hey, it's maybe it's dishonesty that's happened before, and you want to, that time and that time and that time when you were dishonest. But if we can talk about maybe this particular incident, how can we resolve it? How can we build honesty in a relationship instead? So we disagree, but how can we, moving forward, build honesty in our relationship? How can we improve our communication so that there is, less need for distrust in that sense?
Right. And what other tips do you have so they can really, really stay on course for healthy arguing?
Right. I think one big one as well is to avoid blame. I think when we have an argument, it's like I go on a witch hunt, right, to find out what was the cause of this whole distress. Was it you? What you say? Was it me? What happened that caused this? And while that gives us some vindication or avoids, you see, it's not my fault, it's your fault. We avoid the blame, right? We feel good about ourselves a little bit better. Let's face it, we're all human. We want to feel good about ourselves in that argument, but it's not helpful in a sense. How does it help your relationship with whoever you're arguing with if you really find out, in the end it was your fault or my fault? Does it really help you guys progress forward?
Oh, that's a very good point. So it's really not just about finding resolution. I think a key word you just mentioned was about progressing forward. How do you move forward from it, right? How about having a mediator? Sometimes it's too much to just like two people coming into it. Everyone's so emotionally invested in this, and it's hard to do some healthy arguing. Does it help to have a mediator?
Actually, yes, it does. A lot of the times when we do couple counseling, we act as the mediator, and you see couples who shout at each other, who cry, and you see couples who very calmly just raise their points and talk about it and discuss it. But I think having a mediator becomes an objective, as objective as possible, a third party that can kind of like, okay, wait, hang on, you are offline here. Can we come back to the topic at hand? Oh, hey, hang on, there was blaming, kind of like a referee.
Okay.
But I think because arguing is very personal, so it's quite hard just to bring in a mediator.
That's very, very true. And also, like, who you bring in to mediate, does the person really know how to mediate? Because who knows, what if they start taking one side, or like leaning towards one side, then it's bad. Except bribes. Okay, coffee. I'm easily bribed with coffee. We're going to head on over in just a bit to talk more about and go through these 5 tips in greater detail about how we can achieve healthy arguing. And do you actually see people being able to do this? Because we all come from that, I guess, that past of how arguing always is. That this idea, even for me, healthy arguing, I'm intrigued by it. I want to do it, but it's kind of hard to do so. Yeah. How about for yourself?
Well, I think do as I say, not as I do, right? my husband and kids would be testament to that. But that's why it's an ideal that you kind of, if you can hold this ideal in mind, like, okay, I need to remember that healthy arguing includes all these things. So when you're in the position where you're already disagreeing with someone,
we can
instead
work
of
towards
losing
it.
yourself, it's like, okay, hang on, I gotta kind of bring back all these tips that I remember, all these, like, this goal that I want to have.
Alrighty, back on air. We are in the studio joined with the beautiful Charmaine Marsh. I don't say it about every guest. I do not. She is the clinical director, senior therapist at Goodity Co. And we're here to talk about something really interesting indeed, healthy arguing. And on Facebook, we were talking about some tips to help us all sort of like achieve healthy arguing. If you could kind of like just take us through it once again, just to refresh everybody.
The 5 tips.
Yeah.
So generally, I would say, it's not set in stone. It's different for everybody. But generally, if you can fight fair, that's 1. If you can avoid blame, number 2. If you can be accountable for your part in this argument. If you can be honest. And if you can listen without being defensive. Then I think that sets a base for you to hopefully argue more constructively.
Argue more constructively. And you also brought up this point just now on Facebook Live. Yes, healthy arguing, the key thing is that you want to argue towards resolving the issue, right? But also you talk about you have to be able to progress from there. So that's another key important feature for healthy arguing. Now, I have this to ask of you. At what stage does the frequency of arguing become unhealthy despite maybe both parties want to do more healthy arguing?
I think it's something that you notice in the relationship when you know that every conversation becomes some kind of argument, some kind of gaslighting. It becomes passive aggressive. In a sense, there's this underlying resentment that is unresolved, and every single conversation becomes very toxic and draining. Then maybe it's time to maybe talk to someone about it, or to know, ask yourself, is this how I foresee the rest of my relationship going to be? Is every conversation going to be like this? And if it's a no, then maybe it's time to kind of evaluate where you stand in this.
So that's the point of time where you need to bring in a therapist or a mediator, you think?
Yeah, I would think so. If you want to save this relationship but then you can't seem to progress further than, we stopped arguing about this, but it keeps recurring again and again, then I would say maybe going to someone to talk about it might help a bit, to just get a third party perspective, one who's not a friend or family maybe. Then, no bias and stuff, right? When arguing, we don't want to take sides and all that. But if we can get that in, then maybe there could be some way of resolving this while arguing safely.
But here's my question, and we talked a little bit about this on Facebook. The idea of a mediator, and most of the times people, would have difficulty choosing a very neutral mediator because it's someone who knows the both of you. What are your tips on deciding who should be a mediator for an argument between you and another party? Should it be like, for example, someone that both of you know, or what should we go about in choosing a mediator?
That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people tend to gravitate towards friends or family first because it's easy and accessible, and you kind of
feel safer.
You don't want to open up to a stranger just yet. But I think it comes complicated when, let's say, you meet that same person in a social setting, like Christmas, or like family gatherings, like they know all my dirty secrets and kind of thing. It's a bit awkward and stuff. So in a sense, I would say if you can go to a therapist or go to an official mediator. There are definitely a lot of services out there. What a mediator or therapist does in our line is that when we see a couple, we only see the couple. So if one person in this argument, let's say me and my partner, we go for counselling, and I want to see this same counsellor privately, I can't do that. We can only meet as so there's no bias, there's no worry that, are you seeing my partner behind my back, are you on their side? So it's quite clear cut, and we are here basically to help you achieve the objective that you both want from this meeting, these sessions.
And it's interesting how you mentioned, sometimes when a person is too close to either party, because they know you so well, then it might end up being a 3-way argument, right?
In the future, right? When the relationship breaks up, whose side you on? So complicated.
Okay, so it's best to actually maybe get a professional, like you're saying, who really knows the proper way of mediating, because it's not as easy as everyone thinks, right? You do have to be trained for it. Best to go to a therapist, right? Like Goodity Co. Go and find Charmaine. I have one more question. Do people have different arguing styles? Can you take us through some of them?
I think everybody has, definitely different styles. I don't think there's no set style of arguing, but there are 2 general things that could happen when you're arguing, and I think we fluctuate between the both. One is being constructive and one is being competitive. So while you're arguing, everything you're saying at this point now, are you being constructive? Are you moving towards, like what we talked about, resolution and moving forward and progress? Or are you being competitive? I must win this argument. I must get my point across. I must make sure that you hurt more than me. I must make sure I win this argument. I say it because, let's face it, I think all of us to some extent have felt that way before.
I guess maybe not about hurt, but to feel more guilt. You know what I mean? To put blame, like you mentioned earlier before. We're going to talk more about these arguing styles once again, and also, can awareness help to reduce conflict? If we know more about these arguing styles, can it help? So join us on Facebook Live. It's facebook.com/1FM913. Hey everybody, back on our Facebook Live. And remember, just by chiming in with your questions and also your comments, it might just win you this amazing prize. It's a bundle from Krafoon that includes a cocoa pouch and a journal. It's worth $105. You can find out more about them at their Instagram at Krafoon. So head on over to see all the beautiful, beautiful leather products that they do have. I do have this to ask of you, Charmaine. Can you just quickly share with everyone, about the website, about the Instagram, if we want to find out more about Goodity Co?
Well, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, and we have our website.
Wow!
I know, right?
Wow.
So out there. But so if you go on Instagram, head on to Goodity.co. So Goodity. And our website as well, www.goodity.co.
So that's easy to remember. Just remember Goodity. You can search for it on TikTok, Instagram, and also head on over to the website, Goodity.co. So we were earlier talking on air about different arguing styles. So you're saying there is two kinds, right? The constructive as well as the competitive. Is it just these two styles?
Well, I think a lot of different, maybe more nuanced styles kind of fall within these two larger categories. So they could be, in one argument, I could be most of the time thinking that I am cooperative, but actually comes out competitive. So it kind of different styles kind of fall into these two broader categories. But generally, as long as you're being cooperative, you're trying to find a way to resolve the solution, finding middle ground maybe and things.
So that will fall under constructive. And then competitive. I didn't realize it was so easy to break it down, that these argument styles were actually just these two, and then so many like subcategories. But is it possible that during an argument you kind of swap and go back and forth?
I mean, it could start trying to be constructive, but then as you argue, you get just get so frustrated, and then it goes towards being competitive, or vice versa. But I think if we have an awareness of kind of where we are in this stage now, it's like, okay, right now everything I'm saying is trying to avoid blame and put it on someone else, then maybe I'm being competitive here, and I'm not really moving towards any healthy resolution with my partner or whoever I'm arguing with.
And you feel that being aware is the first start. You may not be able to argue healthily, but being aware that this exists, aware that how you do it is already a good first step.
I think it's important to be honest with yourself, which is one of the 5 tips that we have. Can you be honest to say that, yes, actually, maybe deep down inside, there was a part of me that contributed to this whole mess. Maybe there's a part of me that actually doesn't like to be wrong. I like to show that I'm right. I like to be right all the time, or feel right. I win every argument. So if I can be honest and say these things, then when I go into an argument, when I'm having a disagreement with someone, I kind of know in the back of my mind, okay, right now, let's be honest, you are just doing this for the sake of doing this, and not because you actually want to resolve it. You want to win this argument.
I'm getting a sense that certain attributes are really crucial for it to go towards a healthy arguing. It's about being sincere, it's about being real, and also honest, about where you are, what you're about, and everything. Well, difficult. I can see how healthy arguing is something we all should be achieving, but it's actually quite difficult. And here's a question, and we spoke about this earlier, and you mentioned this as one of the tips as to not to do in healthy arguing, which is to dredge up the past, right? But how do you start on a clean slate, or with the argument at hand? And we can't leave all those past issues unresolved, right? So how can we go about this?
So objectively speaking, sometimes let's say for example we're arguing about a theme. So let's say the theme is like dishonesty. I mean, just to pull out one.
Of
Let's say
course.
there's dishonesty. Then across the board, how can we work towards being having more open communication that can build trust and honesty in this relationship, instead of in this exact moment today in this argument, you said this and then this and that, and then it's like micromanaging, and it doesn't really help. But if we can look on a bigger picture, okay, the issue within us is dishonesty. So what needs to happen to build honesty and trust and communication? So kind of focusing on that theme, and then now constructively, what can we do in the future moving forward?
Well, here's the thing. We're going to jump on air in about a minute, and have a think about this, because starting on the right foot, hoping that it will be healthy arguing, that it's constructive, that can happen. But here I want to ask about, how do you end it? An argument, and maybe there's no resolution. It just goes back and forth, and then it never ends. How should you end it? Is it possible to end it? We're going to ask you those questions when we jump back on air. So for everyone, don't forget, last chance for you to chime on in with comments, as well as your questions about healthy arguing towards Charmaine Marsh. And you can even let us know about some of the future topics you would like Charmaine to dive into here on the Brightside on 1FM. So join us as we head back on air. Remember, it wins for you this amazing bundle with $105 from Krafoon. That was Alive and Kicking, Simple Minds, right here on the Bright Side. We are having a really great discussion about healthy arguing. I gotta say, Charmaine, thank you so much for even, you came forward with this great topic to discuss. And is this like a big trending thing at the moment for Goodity Co?
I think definitely in couple therapy that we see, it's one of the things. How do we, find some resolution in our differences and things like that. But I think, we talked about it earlier as well. When we argue, it's not just with our romantic partners, but it might be with parents, it might be with co-workers. And I think this is something that causes a lot of distress if we don't, if we don't kind of find a way of doing it healthily.
Sure.
We kind of repress a lot of emotions, we repress a lot of feelings, and that could lead to just more detriment further down the road. If we can, bring to awareness how we argue, and then argue better, then maybe that could help us, get our feelings out without hurting anybody around us, including ourselves.
And hopefully resolve something for, either party, or at least for yourself. Now, we've always been, as we're diving into this idea of healthy arguing, we talked about how we can embark on this, how to start off the argument. But here's the question. What about the end? Sometimes the end of the argument is not to decide.
Yes. So, like, we've been doing this for 3 hours.
Yeah. And like you said, it's really difficult to keep to healthy arguing. So how do we end it? How do we wrap it up? Is it even possible?
I think that's the one thing that they say is, can we agree to disagree? It's overplayed that line. But in a sense, can the resolution be that, okay, right now we cannot come to any kind of agreement. We cannot seem to agree on anything. So how about this? We just take a pause in this, or we come back to this, or we just accept that you and I have two different, differing views about this. Can we go about our day moving forward? Accepting that.
Oh, it's okay. So it's okay about that. The resolution can be that we won't agree, but it's okay. We accept it, but we will move on.
Yeah, because
that's interesting.
Yeah, because it's unrealistic to say that we should accept, we should agree on everything, because we will not agree on everything.
Okay.
So if we can really agree to disagree, then that could be a very major way of accepting that we have differing views. I accept that you think this way, and you accept that I think this way, and then moving forward, we just understand that moving forward.
Oh wow, this is a revelation for me, honestly, because you always think that a good end to an argument is by just there is a conclusion that you guys agree on something, you've resolved it, but that resolution can be that we accept each other's differences. I think that takes a lot of pressure from how you fight or even how you argue. Wow, thank you so much for that. I feel better when I want to go into an argument. I'll be like, I know what to do already.
And she wants to go into an argument.
No, I don't want to. Oh Lord, no. So thank you so much. You came here with this really great topic. We're going to welcome you back every 2 weeks to talk more. And in the meantime, where can everyone head to check out the good work from Goodity?
You can head over to our website. You can head over to our social media, which is in IG and TikTok. Just search up Goodity.co. Not com, but co.
.co. Okay, that's a very key point, okay? So it's .co. Thank you so much, Charmaine, once again. And I'm going to make everyone tuning in very envious. She brought cookies. She brought cookies for us.
I have to say, my husband said that, if you don't tell anybody, if you don't tell everyone I baked it, then he's going to be pissed off. So it was baked by my husband.
Oh, it was baked by your husband. Good man. Well, thank you to your husband and yourself for joining us here on The Brightside.
Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 91.3.